The meeting is now called to order for a special work session. It is to review Ordinance Number 1916, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, amending Laurel City Code, Chapter 14, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 14-1, Obstructions generally, and Article 2, Roads and Sidewalks, adding Section 14-21, Permits, and Section 14-22, Permits limitations, and amending Chapter 20, Section 20-23.9, other types of permits, to clarify when permits are required for structures and obstructions located within the city of right-of-way, street, etc., and requiring a franchise or license from the city for the same. You have the floor.
Thank you. With the advances in technology, we have been approached by vendors or individuals that we consider to be vendors requesting our process for installing technical equipment in our rights-of-way to facilitate internet needs for common carriers such as Verizon, Sprint, etc. This question has been long debated. Almost a year now we have been looking into this. As you can well imagine, dealing with this issue as well as the Federal Communications Commission, we have a lot of issues that remain to be solved. However, we have reached a point in the process now where these, what we consider to be vendors, are starting to make applications to construct equipment in the public rights-of-way. The document that you have before you, we understand that at this point in time, it is more than likely going to have to contain some kind of amendments based on future discussions that we are going to have and the potential for changes that come down from the Federal Communications Commission. However, there are those in the legal field that feel that it would be in our best interest to have legislation on the books dealing with this issue prior to the submittal of the first application for construction in the public rights-of-way. There are a number of municipalities that have formed a consortium that are discussing the legal matters. These municipalities are primarily in the National Capital Region. 3 of those, as I understand it, have already gone ahead and heeded the advice of those who are of the mind that we should advance legislation prior to submittals and have gone ahead and adopted. We have discussed this and we have bantered this back and forth, considered all the options, pro and con, as far as whether we should at this point in time or whether we shouldn't adopt legislation. At this time, I think it would be in the city's best interest to go ahead and move this legislation forward so that we can protect our ability to control what is installed in our rights-of-way, how it's installed, and whether or not the city should receive some sort of benefit from the installation of this equipment. Having said all that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Councilman Ricks.
Thank you, Madam President. Marty, in reading through this, it appears that the only section that's really changed is that what you were just speaking to. The rest of it dealing with sidewalks and the regular things are just business as normal.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam President.
Councilwoman McCrary.
We actually discussed this with our MML colleagues, so what you were referring to earlier, it's a very important piece of legislation. Thank you for advancing it with our attorney.
Councilman Smalls.
Mr. Fleming, could you just kind of tell us in general terms what kind of equipment that would be put in our right-of-ways?
Well, we are dealing with, with one business that we consider to be a vendor who originally proposed the installation of 74-foot towers with wireless communications devices mounted on top. In doing our research, we found that the towers presented no end of engineering difficulties as far as their stability, to say nothing of the fact that these towers are very unsightly. Some of the proposals for the installation were in areas that are sensitive to the city. So we started meetings with this vendor and were successful in convincing them to look into other options such as mounting equipment on existing light poles in the public rights-of-way. We have looked at a concept and found that the concept is not that obtrusive and would probably be fair to all parties involved if it or something similar to that device were to be allowed. Now, the devices are for the propagation of the internet wirelessly, and the vendor that we have been dealing with is actually looking to construct these devices in the public rights-of-way and then to serve a common internet carrier.
Would it be fair to say that the city already has certain authority when it comes to rights-of-way and what goes into them, and that this legislation would be strengthening what already exists?
Yes, sir, it would.
Okay.
We currently have a franchise agreement that is on the books with WorldCom. They were the first to come into the city requesting to be able to mount wireless internet devices. We have not seen much activity from this vendor. Primarily, at least in my mind, I believe the devices that were installed are so outdated and so slow that the services that they were providing at the time are no longer in use. But their product and their service is very similar to what we're looking at here. We did, through the legal process, a resolution or an ordinance, I can't remember which now, allowing the mayor to enter into a franchise agreement for the installation of these devices, and at that point in time, the city was sharing in revenue. However, that revenue was almost non-existent. But this basically commits to paper, if you will, a process that actually firms up and allows us to do that without having to consider other legislation.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes.
Mr. Fleming, how close to a contract that we currently have with not Verizon, but with Comcast, does it align with this at all?
It has the potential to do that. This vendor that we're dealing with reportedly is looking to contract with Sprint for telephone and for cell for a cell carrier to basically allow the transmission of telephone communications as well as some digital video.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. This ordinance will be introduced at our first public hearing this evening.
We still want to request the suspension of the rules and move on this tonight?
Yes, sir, Mayor. We've had additional discussions a few moments ago and decided that despite some potential changes that were recommended by our FCC attorney, we have all decided that the passage of this evening would be beneficial to the city. And again, we're asking for special consideration as far as passage goes because we are of the understanding that the vendor is looking to make a formal submittal application in about 2 to 3 weeks.
So, Madam President, we'd ask that council consider the suspension of the rules for what you've heard Mr. Fleming say, also with our legal counsel regarding this, to make sure we have something on the books. Now, I want to say we will be coming back to you, I'm pretty sure, with some changes. This is changing rapidly when we talk about wireless streaming, all of those things, and I think the city needs to be prepared, so we still have some work to do, but it's imperative that we get something on our books here tonight if possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This work session is adjourned. Okay.